All right, good evening and welcome to the show tonight. It is definitely Ubuntu Channel Zambia. And this evening, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host and I go by the name Chaza. And just to actually carry on with this topic of the day, I have my co host by the name Lance. Lance, good evening.
Good evening, Chaza. How you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. How's been your day?
Well, my day has been all right. I don't know how yours has been.
Beautiful. Tonight we are actually, hosting engineer Kaisala, UPND chairman for energy. And engineer Kaisala, good evening, sir.
All right.
Good evening, Chaza and Lance, and thank you for having me.
Beautiful. And alongside engineer Kaisala, we do have Mr. Noel Nkoma, an economist. Mr. Nkoma, good evening.
Good evening, Chaza. Good evening, Lance, and good evening, Chairman Kaisala. And happy to join you this evening.
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are looking at the topic current economic situation in Zambia. We've got to know, and what is it that we have to know as regards the current economic situation in Zambia? And the first question that I have tonight is actually, everywhere world over, we have, this challenge. And I would like to know what is it that, we have to know as Zambians as regards the economic situation. And you are free to pick it up, Engineer Kaisala. And thereafter, we are going to have the viewpoint coming from Mr. Nkoma.
Thank you very much, Chaza. I would like to properly introduce my colleague, Mr. Noel Nkoma. Mr. Noel Nkoma is a very senior member of the UPND, and he is also part of a lot of committees, including the Energy Committee, which I'm chairing.
Okay.
And also, he was our parliamentary candidate for the 2021 elections in Chipata there, one of the constituencies there. So he's a very senior member of our party. And I thought that maybe I can just emphasize that point. But of course, he's also speaking today as a renowned economist who will lead actually this discussion as we proceed. Yeah, from maybe just from the introductory point of view, I can just start that, look, from the topic that you have presented to us this evening, which reads as follows: the current economic situation in Zambia. Every Zambian must know where we are coming from and where we are. Yes, that is very true because, as you may know, in 2020, Zambia defaulted on its debt repayment obligations due to economic mismanagement by the previous regime, whereby we have a widened balance of payment deficit and the poorly structured loans and budgetary squeeze brought about by a lot of things, including COVID-19, which came into play just maybe over a year plus ago. So basically, we are talking from a point of view where the economic was in decline even before we came into office. And from what I know, I'm not an economist, but of course, I also, as a leader, we get this information. The economy projected in 2021 to grow by 1% and then 2% in 2022. And underpinned by recovery in the mining, tourism, and manufacturing sectors. The recovery is due to demand in copper prices, which have, risen quite to very high levels, and also, the COVID-19, as you may be aware, the cases are going down, so that can assist us, to grow the economy. But of course, we have other factors that are giving us hell. Otherwise, as a team of led by a lot of very experienced economists, the president himself, Mr. Nkoma, whom I'm with here, I'm sure we are equal to the task as we take on this very, very, very difficult trajectory to resuscitate our economy. At this juncture, maybe I can bring in my colleague, Mr. Nkoma, so that he can push us further on this topic. Mr. Nkoma, please take it up.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Kaisala. And once again, good evening, colleagues and the listeners out there. I think Chairman has summed it up very well. At the time that UPND assumed office, we assumed what we call in economics a default economy, meaning that the economy had defaulted, or the country had defaulted on its debt obligations, not only external debt, but also domestic debt. Secondly, we inherited an economy which was basically in what you call a rapid recession. Rapid recession where the GDP growth was reached an all-time high of about 4.3% negative growth. Over and above that, we reached a stage where inflation was now skyrocketing. At the time that we went to the elections, inflation was hovering around 24%. We inherited an economy where all the key performance macroeconomic indicators were basically going south. The exchange rate was, like what I've said, it was in double digits, almost somewhere around 18, beyond 18, it almost reached about 19. Then we had a situation where the confidence in our economy was totally eroded. We had to begin to rebuild. And how have we performed? I think what is important is, with that background, let's take stock of where we are now. I think that is befitting the subject that we're dealing with today, the state of the Zambian economy. The president, through our manifesto as a UPND, committed to, number one, stop the bleeding, stop the hemorrhage. How did we do that? Is to stabilize the economy. How did we stabilize the economy? Number one, we had, first of all, to begin to mend. One, inflation has dropped from an average 24% at the last announcement by the Statistician General. We are somewhere around 11%. The exchange rate has stabilized somewhere between 17.3 to 17.5. The last 4 months, the exchange rate has been within the projected band going by our 2022 budget. Thirdly, and most importantly, we have managed to get the debt sustainability strategy. Mind you, we inherited a default economy where the gross consolidated debt, both domestic and external, reached an all-time high of $32 billion, which was unsustainable, and it still continues to be unsustainable. So what have we done? We have begun to rebuild the economy. We have restored confidence with our cooperating partners, with our donors and our lenders. to the point that our debt sustainability strategy has been accepted and adopted by the IMF. We are at almost reaching a point.
Mr. Nkoma.
Yes.
Yes, just hold your thought there.
Yes.
Talking about the measures that your government has put in place to see to it that economic recovery plan is effective. Your fellow economist, Chibamba Kanyama, today said or made a prediction to say that inflation rate, we may see a rise in inflation rate, especially in the months of May and June, obviously owing to the fact of the geopolitical war, which is or tension which is going on in Ukraine and Russia. And then he says that despite the Bank of Zambia, which is the central bank, putting in measures to see to it that they control the issues to do with exchange rate and everything, where we are seeing dollar, the kwacha being stable, we still expect a high inflation starting to go up, especially in May and June. Are you able to see that? Should we expect a high inflation, since you are saying that inflation keeps on dropping and this is one of the tenets of having a very good economy?
Lance, just before Mr. Nkoma comes in, just to add on to what you have said, we have seen, especially due to the political conflicts that are ongoing, as you have stipulated, we have seen prices of fuel, going up. And the Zambian today is actually feeling, the bite of the economy. What is the economic situation currently in Zambia? And where do we see ourselves, in the few months to come, Mr. Nkoma?
Okay. Yes. Okay, I will first respond on the issue of inflation. Yes, you're right. I think if you have also noticed, the many countries, including the UK, the inflation rate is going out of control. And what I was trying to say as a reference point is where we are as today, we have managed so well. And there's a potential risk of inflation getting out of control for the simple reason that these are challenges that are beyond us by virtue of the fact that we are connected to the global economy. And what happens on the global economy has a pass-through effect in as far as Zambia is concerned. So yes, there is a risk that may happen. But again, let us not forget that you remember the credit crunch, which happened during the time of President Rupia Banda, may so rest in peace, at a time when our Minister of Finance, Honorable Sokotwane, was the Minister of Finance that time. Zambia somehow was insulated from what was happening in the global economy as far as the credit crunch was concerned. So we are not saying it cannot happen, but we think that under the current economic management framework, I think there's some contingency that is being put in place to ensure that if at all there will be any impact, it will be as minimal as we can. Because as of today, inflation is still holding around the figure that I pronounced earlier. Coming to the issue of the fuel price, and I'm happy that Chairman Engineer Kaisala, who is leading our energy team at the National Management Committee, is with us. We have done very well as a country. Mind you, and I want to emphasize this, Chaza and Lance, you have seen what has happened in Kenya in as far as the fuel prices are concerned and shortages are concerned. You have seen also what has happened in other countries, including Congo DR. Now, it is much easier to explain a price increase than it is to justify a total shortage of a commodity. So what we have basically tried to do is to ensure that we put in protective measures not to grind the economy to a halt. Because the ripple effects of an economy shutting down are more devastating than an economy which is basically having to contend with what you call economic reflective pricing. So as a responsible government, we have done as much as we can to ensure, one, the security of supply of the commodity. The economy should continue to move. The wheels of the economy should continue to turn. At the same time, to be able to explore other avenues in terms of sourcing government to government cheaper sources of fuels. So I think, to me, we understand the pain that the Zambian people are having to bear. But we are saying, yes, this is something that we have to endure, but we think that within the limitations of government, we shall have to see how best going forward we should be able to ameliorate this pain. I hope I've answered those two. Just to maybe talk a little on debt sustainability. We are, right now, as we are talking, the Minister of Finance and his team, which includes the Bank of Zambia governor, had the meetings with the IMF today at the spring summit. And I think we as a country have more than done what we can possibly do to be able to secure what you call an IMF program. We are saying to ourselves, this is going to open up so many opportunities for this country. Number one, our creditworthiness will improve. Those who were looking at us as a pariah nation, a failed state in the past, are going to have a rethink and a re-engagement with Zambia, what basically will result in what you call access to cheaper and long-term financing to be able to rebuild our economy. So we have gone this far, knowing very well that we have only got a few months before we are able to transition to a new dawn and a new prosperity for the Zambian people.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Nkoma. Yes, Lance, you can come in.
Yes. I still have a question for Mr. Nkoma. He says that we need to endure, or the Zambian citizenry needs to endure. But for how long are they going to endure? You are an economist, Mr. Nkoma, and you know how much the high price the high price of fuel gets to affect people that are living below $1 in a day. So for how long are you telling these Zambians that are living below $1 every day to endure so that their lives maybe can get better, as government is working on getting fuel maybe from Saudi Arabia on government to government arrangement?
Okay,
and Mr.
yes,
Nkoma, just to add on to his question, subsidies were actually removed on fuel. I think it was cushioning, on the common man on the street as a citizen. Do you think it was a good idea, really? And just like Lance has indicated, for how long should this perseverance be for a common man, the general citizenry?
Thank you, Chaza. Now let me say something. I think Chaza and Lance there, one thing you must also understand is that government has not been sitting idle. There are some interventions which government have put in the socio-economic sector to be able to almost mitigate some of the hardships that the people are facing. And I will share with you some of them.
Okay.
We know that the economy has to continue running. And what have we done as a government? One, the backlog of almost 4 or 5 years of pension arrears in billions of kwacha. Within the last 7 months, the government has been able to clear that pension backlog, right? What does that tell you? The government has released liquidity in the economy, in billions, right? All those people who were denied access to their long and hard-earned pension have now got money, which basically gives them an opportunity to be able to engage in other business activities in their retirement. Two, the government has gone further to create almost 50,000 new jobs in the civil service. What does that do? Which basically means that the employment indicator in the economy is now going or pointing north. What happens? Those people will be able to earn decent salaries and be able to consume goods and services in the economy, which provides also employment by way of the value chain. Thirdly, what we have done is to go beyond that and released, for the first time, cleared the arrears in constituency development funds and current as the first quarter fully disbursed constituency development fund to each and every constituency in Zambia. That is liquidity being released in the market. Fourthly, and most importantly, domestic arrears to suppliers of goods and services to government. The government has begun to dismantle them. So all these are direct interventions into the economy to be able to pump up liquidity and also begin to get people to be productive or to be able to consume goods and services in the economy. Now, for how long can we endure this pain? Like what I said in my opening remarks, we have stabilized the economy. The inflation, which I talked about, is the rate at which goods, the prices in the economy are changing. The rate of goods and services are changing in the economy. We have addressed that, basically meaning that apart from the pass-through effects of energy being fuel, all other prices have more or less remained stable. Then thirdly, and most importantly, we are now going, had it not been for the geopolitical issues that you have alluded to in terms of the Ukraine war, we are now at a stage when we were going to begin to reboot or recalibrate the economy because stability was almost achieved. We do not know what May will present itself with a geopolitical tension or what June will present itself. But according to the government program, this at the stage that we have reached, we are saying by June, we now begin to deliver the real benefits in terms of the economic dividends. Meaning one, we were now in a position to be able to scale up funding, spending by government. Because government being the largest consumer of goods and services, and for the economy to grow, consumption has to be accelerated. How do you do that? Government has to begin to scale up its spending appetite by being able to support infrastructure projects, other socio-economic projects in the rural areas, and get the SMEs empowerment programs back on track. And this is sustainable empowerment that we're talking about. So I think all in all, we are in safe hands. We are on course to be able to achieve that which we promised the Zambian people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nkoma. Pretty soon we have to get to the questions from the public, but this time around I'd like to direct this question to Engineer Kaisala, considering that he sits on the high-profile committees as regards, energy in the country. There's this issue of price adjustments, the pump prices, every month. Is it really a good idea, especially for businesses, stability and the like? What is your viewpoint?
Thank you very much, Chaza. You see, the pricing structure of our fuel, where we are coming from, they used to use what you call cost plus model, okay? Where you put all the the components in the supply chain of the fuel from wherever you are buying it up to the pump price. So you add all those things. So that's why even middlemen there, you find that the price sometimes is distorted because of the fact that there are too many middlemen. Now, the current model is what you call import parity, IPP, import parity pricing. So this one, what it does is it takes into consideration the source of the fuel, like my colleague alluded to, whereby we're trying to do country-to-country deals so that we reduce on the importation cost. So, and then this process is very transparent because it takes into consideration the major determinants of the pricing of fuel, which is the exchange rate, and of course the price at the international market per barrel. Like right now, that the fuel at the international market is hovering around 100 to 110 US dollars per barrel. So what this model, why it is maybe good for us, is that, look, when you have a massive change into the cost of fuel on the international market, sometimes you don't, the pump price person doesn't benefit. I can give you an example of when we had the total shutdown in the whole world due to COVID. Fuel was almost zero or free. But if I can tell you, did Zambia benefit from that? No. But this IPP thing, if that thing has been implemented as it is, definitely the fuel was going to drop. Okay? So the fact is that, you see, despite reviewing, in fact, let's call it, it's reviewing, not to say we are changing prices every month. No. You just review, because as you may be aware, because of the geopolitical tensions going on around the world, it's not only because Soviet Union, or is it Russia, has invaded Ukraine. There are other social political tensions that occur in the Middle East. For example, there are still wars there going on between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. All those things, they give an impact on the price of crude. And this price, for example, what has happened is, because of the war in Ukraine, we have less fuel on the market. So it's just the supply demand thing. And you see, when something is scarce, even here in Zambia, for example, bread is scarce, it will definitely go up. So that's what has happened to this even fuel. Like my colleague has said, look, as a responsible government, there is no way you can go in a shortage mode, because the shortage mode, it means you collapse the economy. And as such, we will make sure that maybe to restate the economy will be a far-fetched dream. So as a responsible government, we are looking into all those parameters, of course, under the guidance of our president, His Excellency, Hakainde Hichilema, and people like Mr. Nkoma here. We have got a big team that looks after all these things, so that we don't collapse the economy. Because you see, when you have a global recession, you can't say anything, because a global recession, it means everybody is affected. So the only thing you do as a responsible government is to mitigate that you don't fall further that where you collapse the economy. So to me, this IPP thing is very good, except that you see, people are politicking, trying to think that we are trying to review the price every month. No. It's just reviewing. Sometimes, if we don't have so many shocks, like Mr. Nkoma said, that the exchange rate is almost hovering where we would like it to be for now, then there's no need for increasing the price of fuel. So as a businessman, then still plan. But you see, sometimes you may have sudden change into the pricing structure. So this, to me, is the best, because it will take into consideration the pump price. People can benefit when we reduce the price reduces on the international market. Thank you.
Engineer Kaisala.
Yes.
Engineer Kaisala, are you sure that people are politicking over this issue or this matter of monthly reviews. Today, I deliberately got on public transport and moving from one residential area to the other. And the question that upon one person, the driver actually realizing me, because obviously because of maybe they've seen me somewhere or the thing. So the driver asked me to say, "But boss, 9 month vazaikira futi fuel kai vakamba nje every month vaikira or vachosako." And I failed to answer this guy. What deliberate policies or methods of communication have you put in place as the government to make the general citizenry, drivers, and people that run the economy through the transport sector to see to it that this information trickles down to them and it is explained in a layman language they understand, to say these monthly reviews are not for the purpose of increasing fuel, but rather it is for the better purpose of maybe government trying to see how much they spend and looking at whatever modalities that you've put in place. Have you gone to the people down there, the transport sector, to explain to them that these monthly reviews, they have got this positive?
I can admit that on that one, we haven't done very well because, of course, part of what we are doing with my colleague is to explain to whoever is listening to us to understand the current situation. I'm sure, as the chair energy in the executive national management committee, we will try to do our best, especially me and my colleague, Mr. Nkoma. We are trying to appear on a lot of, platforms to explain to our people what this means. But otherwise, when you say politicking, there is a bit of politicking in some of these things. Because you see, there is somebody, one politician, who said fuel in Zambia can land at 6 kwacha. That is politicking. Where now? Where? Because one, we are a landlocked country. When you put in the cost of transporting the fuel from Kaisala or Beira there, that is part of the cost component that the pump price person has to take care of. So now if somebody you can say 6 kwacha per landed cost, that is pure politics, my brother. Because you see, people must be serious. And you see, us, like my brother has said, our president is so committed to make sure that this economy is controlled. And you see, sometimes, like we say, there are certain things that is beyond us. Like the fuel increase. I mean, we are trying our best. Somebody, I think, mentioned that maybe subsidies we have completed. Like he said on the mitigation measure. You see, we have even in the social cash transfer thing. Because you see, pump price, if we had to reduce or maybe put a lot of, will be actually helping the people who can afford the fuel normally. Because you find that the same people you are talking about, they don't even have vehicles. Maybe the only component that is affected to them is the transport cost on the bus. But that's why we have social cash transfer targeted at the poor people. And those poor people, we have even increased that social cash transfer, just to add on what my brother said. So that is also part of subsidy.
Okay, thank you so much, Engineer Kaisala. Now
to say one thing, Chaza.
Oh yes, please, Mr. Nkoma.
Just to add what Chairman Kaisala said here. Yeah, just a quick one. The issue around fuel is something that I think we have to understand. That if you just look at the surrounding economies within SADC, Zambia is probably the third most expensive country, right? Topping the list. Topping the list is, I'm just comparisons.
Yes.
Topping the list is Zimbabwe, of course, followed by South Africa, then Malawi, then Zambia. Zambia is even cheaper than Malawi, right? Chairman there talked about being a land-linked economy or country. But we are not having pride or justification because of that. What we are saying is that indeed there's more that we can do, which we're exploring. But I think to say that government has not done anything to cushion the cost of fuel, I think is unfair. And why do I say so? The current price of fuel, the tax component has been removed. So that alone is a cushion, right? Is a cushion to the consumer out there. But what I think we should be able to say to ourselves is that if we try to restore the subsidy, which I think we have enjoyed in the many years behind, the question that we should be asking ourselves, in what state did it leave the Zambian economy? It has left us with a debt of about $700 million, which we have not been able to pay up to now, or to repay. Secondly, just looking at that debt which has been accrued, which we cannot be able to repay, or we are struggling to repay, that is money which has been diverted to other socio-economic priorities. For example, the issues that I spoke to, funding free education from grade 1 to grade 12, recruiting more healthy personnel to be able to manage our health facilities for a healthier economy, for a healthier citizen. 3, recruit more teachers. All that money which was going to subsidy was denying government the opportunity to be able to deal with these issues that I've talked about. So we are giving ourselves, as a country, a rebirth or a reset. We have pressed the reset button to say, let money go to where it is needed most. So I think,
Mr. Nkoma,
Chaza,
Mr. Nkoma,
let us take these things into context. That yes, government could have removed direct subsidy, but where has the money gone to? So those are some of the things that people should be able to look at into context when putting this matter into context.
Mr. Nkoma, sorry to cut you short. Time is seemingly ahead of us, and there are people from the public that probably would want to contribute or ask you 1 or 2 questions. Lance, what do we have from the people?
All right, so what we do, I think, Chaza, for now, let's take a very short break, and then when we come in, we get to pick calls from people that are reaching us via Facebook, via YouTube, and also on Twitter. So what you can do is simply send in your comment or question via Twitter. You can comment on the live broadcast. You can also comment on the live broadcast on Facebook, Ubuntu channel, and also the live broadcast on YouTube. You can still send your comment there. And for people that are calling us direct, we will be definitely be able to pick your calls live on this after when we take this short break. So we take a short break, and then when we come back, people, we get reactions from the people so that they can ask different questions to our guest this evening. All right, so it seems
Ubuntu chitemiko, Ubuntu mutende, Ubuntu nivenane, Ubuntu is togetherness. I hope you like this video with Ubuntu. Like Ubuntu on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Bye bye. Ubuntu.
We are right back, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching Ubuntu Channel Zambia, and tonight we are discussing the current economic situation in Zambia. Yes, Lance?
All right, yeah, definitely. We are discussing the current economic situation in Zambia, and you can definitely come through via our comment box. So let's get to read what you have been sending. Robert Jobley says, "How long is it going to?" So, Engineer Kaisala and Mr. Nkoma, please take note of the questions so that you can respond to them after when we are done reading them. So this one says, how long is it going to take in order to strike an oil deal with our neighbors Angola, which can answer all these questions of economic doldrums? Robert, thank you so much for coming through. We really appreciate your question, and our guests will be able to respond to this. Of course, if we can go to another question, obviously coming through from another person apart from Robert. Okay, or maybe we can still go with Robert. I think in everything you do, please find means and ways of addressing the issue of fuel. I remember very well when UPND was in opposition, they used to say they will reduce the price of fuel pump price. When are we going to see this? Robert, thank you so much for coming through, and we really appreciate and value your contribution, and also value you being a part of us. All right, so as we are waiting for more people to come through, CJ, let's see if we have Gladys ready so that we can also get her to ask our guests her question, and of course, not forgetting Nyachisengu as well if she is ready. Hi, Gladys. Good evening.
It appears the mic for Gladys is on mute.
Kindly unmute your mic,
Hello,
Gladys.
hello.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Nkoma, and good evening, everybody, and good evening, the engineer, Energy. I got two questions, if I'm allowed to, and one question is directed to Mr. Nkoma. Mr. Nkoma, I quoted you saying that by June, the government will bring a real benefit of economic dividend, such that there will be a scale up. And my question is, how do you scale up when you even don't have the Blossom startup? And what strategy are you going to use to have a scale up? Because the economy already is in shambles. We're still struggling with the dates. Is that realistic? That if you say by June, I don't know if it's June, this June we are coming in the next few months, or it's in June 2050. And my second question is, what can we anticipate the next 4 to 5 years if the Ukraine war still continues in the next couple of months? It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years. We don't know how long it's going to take. So what specific measures have you put in place, Mr. Nkoma? Thank you.
All right, so thank you so much, Gladys. If we can get also a question from Nyachisengu, and then we get our guests to respond to the different questions coming through. Hi, good evening, Nyachisengu.
Good evening, Lance, and good evening, everybody. Good evening to Mr. Nkoma and Mr. Kaisala. We met the last time. You were brilliant as usual, and today you came out, brilliant as well. And I was listening to everything you said, absolutely fascinating. My first question goes to Mr. Nkoma. Mr. Nkoma, yes, and both of you are right. I think Mr. Kaisala actually talked about this. There is a little bit of politicking coming through in Zambia to do with fuel. People are actually trying to take advantage of the fact that the fuel prices are going up, not because of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema or not because of the new government, but because of the global problem that we have at the moment. Of course, Ukraine and Russia are partly to blame on this. I like the title of our topic today, current economic situation in Zambia. I think you should have called it the current situation, economic situation in the world, because whatever is happening in Zambia is happening all over the world. I think the last time I mentioned to you guys that I live in Canada, and I won't even tell you what kind of car I drive. I think it's bigger than the Land Cruiser, and the prices of fuel are going up every single day as we speak. I live in a country which has plenty of oil, but we're not landlocked. We're not a landlocked country. Canada is not, but we have plenty of fuel, but the prices are still going up. Mr. Kaisala, and again, Mr. Nkoma. I read your profile, Mr. Nkoma. I'm here to read the one for Mr. Kaisala, and I'm hoping you guys will be staying with us, forever, so that you can be giving us the update of whatever is going on in Zambia. I'm trying to thank Lance for his comment and question that he talked about earlier on regarding the fact that these people, the consumers, don't really understand why the prices of fuel is going up. Yes, we've got a lady here that's actually listening to us, Mama Chika Moneka, very loudly spoken lady who a lot of people like to listen to. She is one of the people that you could actually use to make sure that this information is getting to the grassroots level. The people, the conductors that probably don't even have an education, just understand because one of the politicians has said, Mr. Akainde promised whatever. Now look at the fuel is going up, not understanding the economics. So I think those are some of the things that I had here. And Angola as well, I think somebody has already asked a question there. Why can't we use Angola? And I know their mines and all that. But there is something that was in the paper recently that I read about Angola wanting to, come into, play with Zambia. The last one is about Nakonde. Why do we have fuel coming all the way from Tanzania and being refined in Ndola when it can be refined at the first point of entry in Zambia? And that's Nakonde. Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for the brilliant questions that you've asked, and I believe that Engineer Kaisala there and also Mr. Nkoma, you've taken note of them. Please, would you come in and address those questions?
Maybe I come in first because I think the questions I've asked him are a bit detailed. So let me start first. I think there was a question on how long is it going to take for us, to maybe start getting Angolan oil. It is, you see, the Angolan oil is pure oil, or rather pure crude. So as it is now, we don't have a refinery that can process pure crude. Indeni used to process what you call commingled feedstock. So that is where just a few ingredients of fuel are added together and then separated at Indeni there. So it will require us upgrading Indeni to a full refinery. So which means it needs money. And of course, that can only be done in partnership with a strategic partner. But of course, maybe there's technology also where you can put up pipelines to transport finished products like low sulfur diesel and of course, petrol. So that one, we need to put up a line, or rather a pipeline, so that we are able to benefit from Angola. But even then, don't we have oil ourselves in the northwestern province? If Angola has got oil, definitely there must be some oil in northwestern. And that brings me back to the fact that, you see, we have a lot of people exploring this commodity, and we don't get the results. What is happening? And you find those guys, instead of doing exploration, they are just digging our minerals and exporting them, ripping us out. So we, as the New Dawn government, we are trying to streamline some of these things using the relevant institutions to make sure that the government, or rather the country, is not ripped, you know. So this Angola thing should be treated as a long-term solution. If we had to put up the pipelines, maybe to bring in crude or to bring in finished products. Those are things which are being interrogated. One, to sort out the issue. One, short-term and long-term, of course. So I think that's the way I can answer that, unless my colleague has got, you add up when it comes on. Then the other question is where we are saying that we find ways of addressing the fuel issue in terms of pricing, and we campaigned that will reduce the pump price. Yes, we stand by that. But we have a global crisis. This has got, nobody is affected. Our lady just talked of Canada. Canada is one of the top producers of oil. I think it's number 5 or somewhere there. Now, if those people can have price increase, what about us who don't have anything and we are land-linked or land-locked? Where this, and you see Zambia, where we are strategically positioned, we are just in the middle. So when Mr. Nkoma mentioned that Zimbabwe fuel is more expensive than Zambia, then they are even closer to Mozambique and even in South Africa. As we are right in the middle, maybe you have to pass through 2 countries for the commodity to reach Zambia. So all those are cost effects that make our fuel a bit expensive, but we are maintaining, and like he said, we are not trying to say to justify maybe anything here, but just to face reality that we have a global crisis at our hands. I think I can pass on to my brother now to add on what I've said. Mr. Nkoma.
Thank you, Chairman Kaisala. I think on the issue of Indeni, a feasibility study was done in terms of how much would it cost to reconfigure the structure of Indeni to be able now to refine or to upgrade Indeni. And the cost was somewhere around $500 million, which money we don't have. Then secondly, I think there was an issue to do with our campaign promises. Like what my chairman has said, we still stand by them. But I think some of the developments in the global environment are such that we did not anticipate, and as a consequence, we are more or less constrained to be able to do more. I will now come to the issues that Gladys has raised in terms of what I meant to say that by June, we should begin to get what you call the development dividends. Now, when you have a plan, you plan it in such a way that probably some of the shocks, you may not be able to anticipate them. Chibaba Kanyama, like what Lance has said, is projecting that inflation may go outside our projected band, which means it may increase. That was not planned for. There is something that has caused that development, which is again beyond our control, if at all it happens. Now, what we are saying is that we have stabilized the economy. And according to the budget, we said at the end of the second quarter, we should now be able to increase government spending. Now, government spending is a stimulus. It's a stimulus because the more government spends, the more economic activity takes place in the country. And we said if we increase our spending, considering the fact that we would have now recalibrated our economy, realigned, our budget to the extent that we are now comfortable to be able to meet our obligations, but also to be able to reserve some spending towards growing our economy. That is what I meant by stimulus. Now, it is dependent again on so many things. One, the challenges that we face in the geopolitical economy is beyond our control. But like what Chairman Kaisala says, we still are more than resolved to forge ahead with our economic plan, hoping that we are able to get all the pieces together, notwithstanding that there's a Ukraine war, which is creating devastation. I gave an example of the credit crunch. It impacted even our neighbors, but Zambia somehow was insulated because we think that we have got the best economic team to be able to deal with the challenges that we may encounter going forward. I'll quickly answer the last caller, Nyachisangu. Excellent advice that you have given in terms of being able to increase our what you call public awareness in terms of what is happening. Mind you, the monthly reviews of pricing, fuel pricing, are happening in all economies, including South Africa, including Malawi, including Botswana, and Zambia has just introduced it. Why we want price reasonableness? We want people to be able to say the two variables that will determine the increase are things that you can be able to anticipate. It's the exchange rate. We have stabilized the exchange rate. And the other thing is the price on the international market. That is beyond our reach. That is beyond our reach. On one side, we have stabilized the exchange rate, but this other hand, we are not able to stabilize it. So we'll continue to have these what you call spikes, but hoping that the global petroleum industry can be able to increase output to compensate for the deficit coming out of Russia. I submit. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Gladys and Nyachisangu. I believe that the responses there from Engineer Kaisala and also Mr. Nkoma are actually, satisfactory enough. Lance, do we still have, members from the public that would like to come in before we make conclusion? And I can see our inbox is actually filled up with, messages. If we can quickly have a browser of the same before we wrap up.
Yeah, definitely. So this one is coming from Freehead, and says it's true that less developed countries are especially challenged by the pandemic. Plus, the war and large number are turning to the IMF for help. Do we have any backup plan if this continues? All right. Thank you so much, Freehead, for that particular comment. And of course, Chaza, I think due to time, this is where we have to call it quits. Goodbye is such sweet sorrows, and we unfortunately have to say them.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Ubuntu Channel Zambia, and tonight we've been looking at the economic situation in Zambia. And to help us, tackle the topic in discussion, we actually had Engineer Kaisala and Mr. Nkoma. I've been your host. My name is Chaza, and my co-host has been Lance. Till next week, same time, have a good and great evening.
Thank you.